Welcome back from the break. You are still watching ACFIM Talks, and we are discussing Uganda's reparations in DRC. Is it justified, or we are just a victim of geopolitics? And with me, I have Dismas Nkunda, and also with me, I have Edgar Tabaro, and we are trying to make sense of what has befell Uganda concerning the ICJ ruling and how much they're supposed to pay and how do we get into that position. Before we went for the break, Edgar, you had promised to give us the correct history surrounding the gold scandal. But as you explain that, also give us your perspectives, because we were there before. Again, we could not resist the beauty of Congo, especially the gold. We went back in 98. We are now faced with reparation costs. We are again back in Congo. How sure are we that we will not again be having similar challenges that we are facing right now?
I think you asked a rather rhetorical question, because how it turns out really is about the personnel on the ground. Without really calling for ruckus, I think Dismas will agree with me that on this occasion, the persons deployed as commanders in the DRC against in the Operation Shuja, in the outlook, training, and exposure, I think they're better pedigree than the ones who were there in the 90s. On all fronts, really. Training, interpersonal relations, emotional intelligence. I'll even add the IQ of the ones who are there now is a lot more. I don't know whether I'm being undiplomatic here, but quite frankly, I don't expect us to go the same way. But the issue of reparations, it's not the first time Uganda is paying reparations. Following Idi Amin's activities in the Kagera salient, where people were killed and bridges destroyed and some critical infrastructures, roads and factories, Nyerere passed on a bill of 138 million US dollars to be paid by Uganda. I'm meant to understand that the Obote II government didn't pay it. We didn't even have that money. I'm also meant to understand that bill was picked by the present government. It was paid. However, that was really more of diplomatic maneuvers, and it did not go to the ICJ. Now, back to the 1964 Uganda's involvement in the DRC and subsequent gold allegation scandal and the attempt to censure Obote and the overthrow of the constitution in 1966. This is what exactly happened. Obote, Nyerere, and Kenneth Kaunda were founding members of the Organization of African Unity. Because of the differences in ideology, they formed an exclusive club in the Organization of African Unity called the Mulungushi Club. Mulungushi Club had Obote, Nyerere, and Kaunda, which was really promoting a leftist socialist agenda. Now, in the same formation, they had drafted the late Patrice Lumumba. Now, Lumumba was assassinated, was rather murdered by Western interests, and there followed a fragile administration in Kinshasa with a breakaway formation led by Moise Tshombe that was attempting secession from the rest of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which came to be known as the Katanga Rebellion. Now, Obote, the OAU recognized the government of Joseph Kasavubu, and as such, it became the legitimate authority to represent Kinshasa in regional and international affairs. But Obote, Nyerere, and Kaunda formed an opinion and a separate formation to support the Lumumbist rebels. Now, because they did not have access to the rest of the world, they decided to use Uganda as a conduit for exporting their ivory. Well, at that time, exporting ivory was okay. It's not like today, if you raise that issue to be controversial. Ivory, gold, and diamonds. And they used Idi Amin's accounts in, I think was it Barclays or Grindlays Bank. Now, because of the fractious politics that we had in Uganda, that was picked up by what Obote referred to as fifth columnists, and pushed the agenda that they were involved in stealing resources in the DRC, knowing very well that Obote and Nyerere and Kaunda wouldn't come out openly to say they were supporting a rebellion in the DRC. Now, that was the background to it. And like I said, Uganda has always had legitimate interest pursuing the Congo, as indeed on the occasion on which we are supposed to pay the 325 million US dollars. However, it was not done within the precepts of the law. Now, on this occasion, Operation Shuja, it is well clothed in legalities. But I'm a little bit disagreed with Bwana Dismas on the tangent he follows, that we strictly have to operate within the terms of the bilateral agreement between Uganda and the DRC. Under international law, Uganda has a responsibility to protect. And under that responsibility to protect, Uganda may, where it's deemed necessary, engage those other rebel groups so as to establish effective command and administrative control of that area in the DRC. Dismas as well indicated there are 133 militia groups. The dynamics of that all, these militia groups, they have an external backing in the region and on the international plane, on the international scene. The same militia groups are led by soldiers, persons you'd refer to as soldiers of fortune. And the men, the ranks and men of those militia groups are populated by persons you'd call mercenaries. Now, these soldiers of fortune and mercenaries operating in that area find it more lucrative to engage in the activities, the armed activities they engaged in, than get involved in settled what you'd call settled or civilian life. They earn big, they export, they even charge taxes in their areas of control.
It's a small government.
There are many small governments there. Some of them
they are big governments. They are not small governments.
So some of them control territories as big as Uganda.
Yes. Yes.
Those are the dynamics we have in the DRC. So Uganda, on this occasion, I have every reason to believe we won't end up where we were before, given the kind of names we read as commanders there. And when I talk of commanders, I'm talking of the likes of Muhanga, not his brother, who went posturing in a helicopter.
Let's not go there.
That because his brother is a
commander. Maybe he's vying for that. Let me bring in here on the issue of. I know it's been known an ancient practice for invading states to loot countries. There's nothing new about it. We've seen US loot. The narrative is out there that US did benefit from the Iraq's invasion, and that probably explains why it has large reserves of oil at the moment. And we've seen a number of countries become wealthy as a result of military expeditions. What is different about Uganda's looting expedition in DRC this time? Is it because it was this one individuals, not necessarily for the state?
Exactly. Edgar will tell you that we have a neighboring country. Its looting at the same of what was happening in Congo at that time was very, very, extremely, very clever. It had even a ministry. It had a desk for Congo. It had a taxation policy for everything that was coming from Congo. If you read the current literature, it will tell you that it was the most structured manner in which you can loot a country without wincing, without even thinking twice. They had a taxation policy. They had everything in order. Ours, it was individuals. Individuals, it was certain families, certain cabal, groups of people that were doing it for their own benefit. Now, that's the difference. The difference is, if we had done it in a systematic manner in which we knew we are looting Congo, we are populating the treasury of Uganda with enough resources coming from these resources, instead of populating people's pockets, then it would have been easy for us to be able to explain that, the ICJ has now decided, and we therefore have to pay back for what we did. But we are paying simply because we were not involved, but the people who were involved, we no longer see them. Some of them are dead, others maybe are bankrupt, or others are in government, but they have fallen out. So it's a pity that it had to reach to that level.
Edgar, does looting have a place in the international geopolitics? Can it be justified?
Looting? No, not in any context. Not in any context. Uh, well, I mean, I don't know how one would justify it. And on this occasion, Uganda is really boxed in the corner because, like Dismas indicated from the beginning, we had the Commission of Inquiry chaired by a British expatriate judge, David Christopher Potter. He was deputized by Justice Beko, a Ghanaian, also expatriate judge. At that time, he was a judge of the Court of Appeal. The secretary was George Bisereko Kyomhendo, who just retired as Director of Legal Advisory Services. Very respected people in the legal profession. And the report was detailed as to whom, what companies, under what directorships, and the days of the registration and how they conducted their business. So, and the report concluded that indeed there was pillage of that part of the DRC by Ugandan officials. Now, in that case, we're really boxed in a corner. You have your own internal process that comes to the basically the same conclusion that the International Court of Justice is reaching. So nothing justifies it, and going forward, really, I hope this time we are smarter, and more so for we, the ordinary people, the citizens of Uganda. I hope we can have deepened civic engagement, where we can call out these people to account, and we can only have deepened civic engagement by discussions like these we're having, because a citizenry that is informed, or rather, if I put it this way, a citizenry cannot call upon its authorities to account if it's not informed. So I really want to thank you for this initiative, so that our citizens get more informed, and in the right fora or the right forums, call upon our officials to account on the floor of Parliament. Call the Minister for Foreign Affairs to account. Call the Minister, the Prime Minister, the Minister for Security, the Minister for Defense, if we have the correct information.
In my basic elementary legal understanding, there's something they call, you help me understand, and I think this goes to you, Council, something they call vicarious liability. Because for me, I'm still disturbed. Why would I be paying for what I didn't benefit from, for what I didn't steal? There are even those who are not yet born, and they have passed on this burden of paying back. At what point can we transfer this liability to individuals and not collectively as a state, because of the mistakes done by the state?
Vicarious liability arises as a result of someone else's what? Someone else's what wrongs. We call follies. Follies, okay, wrongs for that matter. For instance, one of the examples one can cite is between an employer and employee. If an employee if an employee commits a wrong and in the course of their employment, then the employer becomes vicariously liable. So it's liability arising out of the wrongs of another person. So in this case, the persons who were fingered as having looted the DRC had gone there on the authority of the state of Uganda, the Republic of Uganda, and all they were doing was in furtherance of the employment and agents of the Republic of Uganda. So to that extent, pardon?
including the looting.
Yes, including, it's like, let me give an example. You have a driver, a delivery van. You give him, for argument's sake, eggs to deliver at a supermarket, at a chain store. If he knocks down a border, he gets involved in an accident, the owners of the delivery van would be liable for the acts of that driver. Even if he went out of his way, and say you've sent him to Ntinda and instead he drives to Ontario and gets involved in an accident, the owner of the van would be vicariously liable. However, there are also defenses to it. You can say that the fellow was on a frolic of his own. The fellow was outside of his what? Ordinary course of employment.
Exactly, that's the point. Yeah. So doesn't that apply in this case?
Now that applies strictly in because here we're talking about international law, and the preemptive norms of international law are not like the ordinary course of doing things. They went there in the name of the Republic of Uganda, and whatever they did was closed under that authority.
Edgar, I have a question for you. How about individuals who went there as business people, but they were not actually working on behalf of the Uganda government? They went there as business people to plunder.
Incidentally, the DRC team did. I don't know. I don't want to fault colleagues, but they did do a good job. That is the truth of the matter. Remember, the initial assessment was over 10 billion US dollars.
11 billion.
11 billion, yeah. 11 billion US dollars. And quite frankly, they failed to prove those damages. Even the ones where were fingered, particularly on the death of persons there, it was actually a neighboring country that got involved in that. All that we provided was the equipment, attack helicopters and T-75, T-55 tanks that neighboring state did not have at the time.
Wow, we are still discussing a very interesting topic around the reparations that have been slapped on Uganda because of our involvement in Congo during 1998 to 2003. We are almost coming to the tail end of this discussion, but still in that direction. Can we trace where did this money go? Because if I'm a Ugandan, I would be interested to know where did this loot end up in. Can it be traced? Yes, must.
Where is the Uganda money kept? Where is your tax kept? When you pay tax, where does the money go?
He was specific. He was said, where did the loot go?
Where did the loot go? Where did it end up?
What's the difference between a loot and any money that you pay because you are paying taxes to things that you don't know?
Are you trying to say?
No. I think Edgar Ebled tried to explain it. I think they are individuals, they are government officials, they are individuals who went there as agencies of the state who are carrying out operations on behalf of the state. There are individuals who went there. You remember, Edgar, the individuals who used to import timber using these Russian planes and Antonovs, yes, carrying the old airport, that military airport had become like a different, like an exchange zone for goods that were coming from Congo. So those individuals are known, they are known, but you can't be able to.
This was just a moment. This was you may wish to, because it's about 2 decades now.
Yeah.
You might wish to indicate which journalists of the time covered those stories. You mind naming the names, mentioning the names now?
Well, I wouldn't want to mention myself, but
but the other colleagues, who are the other colleagues?
The other colleagues were the late Kevin Aliro.
Yes.
And others are diplomats. I can't be able to name them.
Diplomat.
They are protected.
Who else?
Edgar, don't take me that side. That's
Because
a discussion.
one of them is Simon. I won't mention his surname. Then
You already
Yeah,
mentioned Edgar.
so the point is that there are individuals actually who are still alive. If you I don't know, Edgar, whether you have actually the Porter report. I think we need to be able to get back to that Porter report and see which individuals are named, whether they are still alive, and whether they can actually be called upon to at least explain. We know we are going to pay as a country because ICJ doesn't try individuals, but then as a country we're going to pay. But at least we know that there is someone who was involved in that looting that we keep at the back of our mind as they remove my taxes in order to pay DR Congo for the 325 million.
Interesting. And I think for me, as a concerned Ugandan, I'm at pains to actually pay for the sins I didn't commit. And taking that direction would really help, indeed, to correct the injustice here that is being meted on Ugandans. But let me come to you, Edgar, and since we have almost 5 minutes to the end of this discussion. So what does this mean to the ordinary Ugandan? Why would someone who may not necessarily understand the geopolitics, but get concerned when we start to see Uganda having to pay another country for its misdeeds in that other country? What does this mean to an ordinary Ugandan?
well, I mean, do we have a choice? They'll have to go to the public purse. They'll go to the public till, the treasury, and we are supposed to be paying in installments. I think $65 million starting
Yes.
in September.
In September.
Yeah, in the budget framework.
Which is about 228 billion.
Yeah, in the framework, budget framework to Parliament, the Minister for Foreign Affairs will have to go and make a budgetary statement asking for a supplementary. That will come after the new financial year setting. But in the estimates we are going to present to Parliament, that certainly will have to be catered for. We'll have to budget for it. It will come from the public purse. That means they will tax you and me. Now, Uganda does not have such a large tax base. Our tax to GDP ratio is still about 14.1 or 14.2%. That means it's the middle class.
And mainly around Kampala and Wakiso.
It's persons who are on this screen who are going to dig deep into their pocket. Yes, it's you and I and Dismas who are going to pay this. It's not the subsistent farmers in Gisoro where I and Dismas come from. All the subsistence farmers catching what wild rats in the bushes of Luero. No, it's us, the middle class, who are going to pay to meet that bill.
Okay, this pass to you. Do you see a point in time where if Uganda is to engage in looting, it's now looting for the national treasury? Do you see Uganda getting that?
Looting is looting. I don't think that you can loot for the national treasury. By the time we say that it's looting, it means that someone is doing it for personal aggrandizement. So it's not anything that is new. Other Uganda, if it was to deal with anything of any nature, it would be an international trade. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. And in this case, like Edgar said, we are fingered because we are not smart enough to know how to let me not use the word to loot, how to exchange things in DR Congo in the most humane manner. We were reckless. Not only were we stealing timber, everything that was there, our hands were itching, including taking women, coming with 3 women. If you have a wife at home and bring 3 women, honestly, so it's our body politic that we are dealing with, and we can't change it overnight.
Okay, Edgar, what are your parting shots?
Going forward, Uganda is involved in the DRC. Our defense spending is, I think, 1.2 billion US dollars. It stands at about maybe 1.3, 1.4% of the GDP. I see it going high. You saw the machines that were deployed in that part of the world.
Yes.
By way of simple numbers, to keep a Sukhoi jet up in the air for 1 hour, it costs up to 30,000 US dollars. A T-72 tank would go for about 2 million US dollars. One Sukhoi jet costs 124 million US dollars. Uganda has a squadron of Sukhoi jets, the 5th generation. So, tukipende tusipende, we are going to continue spending big on defense. And
do we have the resources to spend on those? You are insinuating, Edgar, that we'll find a way of paying ourselves when we are there.
Well, I think you've driven me to a point that I was trying to avoid. Uganda has the biggest gold refinery in Africa. That gold is not going to come from the artisanal miners in Mubende. It's not going to come from the artisanal miners in Karamoja. Where it's going to come from is anybody's guess.
Edgar, that military hardware that you are describing, is it entirely for ADF, or it has also another regional implications of why it has been expressed in that way? I'm now being a journalist.
If you look at the persons captured, the ADF rebels captured, and the camps they have overrun, you certainly wouldn't deploy a sledgehammer to kill a mosquito. The hardware that is deployed in the DRC is certainly a message to another person in the region. It's a statement to other persons in the region, certainly not the ADF.
Yes, especially that person nearby. Yeah, this must your parting shots.
No, I guess I think it's been a good conversation. It's my first time to see this platform. I've been with Edgar on this topic for, I think, Edgar, we did one with the Solomon Serwanja, then we did one with the Voice of Muhabura. Yes, and so this is the third time, and we think that it's a relevant topic, and I think that Mr. Felix, you treated it very well, and I hope that our viewers can be able to understand where we have come from, and that when they come knocking on their doors and telling them we have to pay 325 million, they don't complain, they just comply.
That's right.
This was Nkunda, civil society leader and founder and current executive director of Atrocities Watch Africa. I also with me had Edgar Tabaro, who is the expert on Great Lakes region issues, and especially is also an attorney and partner at Karuhanga Tabaro Associates. It's been good to have you have discussed this very interesting topic, looking at the Uganda's reparations to DRC Congo. Till next week, your host Felix Kafuma. Bye-bye. God bless.